and we are going to dig right in. So at Wet Cement, we just completed some new original research on fearlessness at work with some behavioral scientists from Wharton to understand what are those behaviors that hold us back, that those career advancement barriers in order for us to achieve our potential. And if you take a look at the slide that you see in front of you right here, there's two bars. Those are for men and women. So women are the royal blue on the left, men are the teal on the right. And as you can see, we're not that different in terms of those areas where we feel like we're just not as good as everybody else. And so the reality is when you look at those scores of essentially how we are rating ourselves, the reality is we would be giving ourselves a C if we had to give ourselves a rating. And that's why what we will be doing over the course of the next 5 weeks with the Fearless Strategies Workshop is focusing on 5 C's. So if you're giving yourself a C, we might as well do 5 of them. Confidence, communication, control, connections, and courage. And what we'll be talking about over the course of the next hour is how we will be helping folks across these different areas. Now, we'll definitely keep time at the end for questions. So if you have any questions, please jot it down so that we can come to them as we get to the end of the session. I will not ask you to put it in the chat right now because we'll have you weighing in the chat as we're going through this. So I don't want them to get lost along the way. Now, the way that we will focus on those fearless fundamentals, on every one of them, is to focus on how do you fight fear to be happy. And happy for us means we're going to always look at 5 things across each one of those fearless fundamentals. What are your habits and how do you change them? What is your attitude and how do you choose a positive one? What is your sense of purpose? What is a plan of action that you can put to overcome any of those challenges that you have? And then the last piece of that is you. And even as we saw in that word cloud that some of you weighed in on, we can get in our own way. And so understanding that you are in control and you can do this is critical, because again, some of what we found in the research is that when it comes to people hesitating to share their most creative and unique ideas, the kinds of things that get you to that next level and to achieving your potential, here's what we saw. And now if you take a look at this bar graph, again, women on the left in royal blue, men in teal. And in this case, the higher it is means that these are the things that are holding you, these are the things that you agree more with. So what you'll see is that we are getting in our own way by thinking our ideas are not good enough, thinking that others will judge us, thinking that we're not confident enough. And so we need to be able to shift how we are thinking and how we're presenting. And as you can see here, one of the top things for women, selling our ideas. The top areas for men, getting others on board and helping drive what it is that we're trying to do. And we'll do this over the course of the 5 weeks through a combination of group training. We'll also have, for every workshop, there will be individual exercises and handouts that will provide you with resources. We'll also have breakout rooms. So not only will you learn new strategies and methods to achieve your potential, but you'll also get to know the other folks in the course through breakout rooms and help each other through on your journey. So you'll get that connectivity piece here as well. And then finally, just as you saw as we started, there'll be interactive polling so that you will have your voice heard and understand how does everybody else feel at the same time as well. And so let's dive right in and talk about what are some of those areas that we'll be focusing on. So we will be kicking off the series next Thursday with confidence and the power of self-belief. So let me see actually, let's do this one in the chat. I would like to see in the chat how many Olympians we have who are a part of this program. So if you've ever competed in the Olympics, put a yes. And if you've never competed in the Olympics, put a no. Okay, so let's take a look at what we see in the chat here. No, 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 hell no. Cheryl, we got to get you in the Olympics. No, thank you. No, no. Where are all of our Olympians? What's going on? Okay, the reason I'm asking is because for most of us, we walk around every day. Junior Olympics, congratulations. We walk around every day as if we have a panel of judges who are rating us and scoring us on what it is that we're doing. And we also sort of take this attitude as if we have invited the mean girls to come live in our house with us. But the reality is we will quite often say things to ourselves and tell ourselves these stories that are truly hurtful. And it's the kind of thing that if somebody said this to your best friend or your sister or brother or your mom or dad, or certainly to your child, you'd punch them in the face, right? I mean, let's be honest. I say some pretty mean things to myself sometimes. But for some reason, when you say it to yourself, it's fine. And you believe it too, on top of that. Even though if somebody else said that to your best friend, you'd say, oh, don't listen to her. She has no idea what she's talking about. Yet for some reason, we say it to ourselves and it must be true, right? So that is one of those things that holds us back, these limiting beliefs, and they can take so many different forms. So it could be that we have the perfectionist mindset. And if I have any perfectionists out there, give me a little woot woot, so I know that I'm not alone. Come on. Oh, I got some woot woots going on with me. Perfectionists are those people who you set this incredibly high bar for yourself. And if you fail by just a tiny bit, like, I don't know, maybe you got a 98 instead of 100, you are an absolute failure. And you're very hard on yourself, and you're probably going to berate yourself for hours, if not days, if you don't live up to those incredibly high expectations that you have. Or you may be one of those superheroes. You know who you are. You believe everybody else is the real deal, but you're the one who's a fake or a phony. And so it really matters to you what other people think, and you get that external validation. So what does that mean? It means that you take way too much on because you're trying to please everybody else and get some of that external validation. And you may be then one of those people who feels burnt out. Anybody here? Give me a little woot woot if you feel burnt out because you take on a little bit too much all the time. Okay, thank you. I see I'm not alone. Or you might be an expert. And an expert is somebody who really wants that promotion, or you want to get to the next level, but boy, you do not have the experience that you need to get there. Or you may be like 80% qualified, but that means that somebody else should take on that role because you're not ready for it. Or perhaps when you get that one certification or the MBA that you've been trying to get, then you'll be ready for that next step. And the reality is, once you get the certification or the experience or whatever else, you tell yourself some other junk of why you can't do it. And so we got to get over that. Or you may be what's called a natural genius. So school has been pretty easy for you your whole life. You did pretty well. And then all of a sudden, something comes up that you are not innately and naturally good at. And so you start to believe that if you can't do everything right on the first try, that you can't do it at all. And so anything that can be a real challenge for you, which generally taking a leap or a step up, it should be a challenge for you. You may feel like you just can't do it. There's no way that you're going to make it. So you have to challenge yourself in a new way. Or perhaps you're one of those people that feels like if you need to ask for help for anyone, that you're not going to be able to do it. You should be able to go it alone. And it's called that rugged individualist. All of these types of mindsets fall into the category of what's called imposter syndrome. And it's those stories that we tell ourselves why we're fakes or frauds, or we're going to get found out, and that we're just not good enough. And so what we'll be doing in the workshop series is helping you embrace imperfection and help you see the beauty in not waiting for everything to be perfect before you get going, but how can you find those ways to get started and iterate and evolve with time. We'll even talk about a Japanese philosophy called wabi-sabi that has celebrated this for centuries. We'll also help those of you who join who are leaders to understand what can you do to help your team and those folks that you work with who may be self-sabotaging by not taking that next step and being afraid to achieve their potential. And we'll give you real, tangible, manageable ways that you can start to shift how your team thinks about themselves, as well as how they think about you, and things that you can do to model the right behaviors for your team. And so one thing I want all of you to take away from today is to adhere to this concept of building a confidence catalog. This is a practice that we believe in at Wet Cement, where you take 5 minutes a week. I personally like Friday mornings, where I have a recurring calendar appointment on my phone for 5 minutes. That's it, 5 minutes. Where in that 5 minutes, I look back on the week and I say, what did I do that I'm proud of this week? What moved my mission forward? And I write that down and add it each week to that recurring calendar entry. So you start getting with time a big old list of all the great things that you're doing. And in that 5 minutes, you can also look forward to next week and think about what is it that I need to do to be proud at the end of next week? What are those priorities that I need to be focusing on? And by putting a confidence catalog into place, it will completely change your perspective about who you are and what you are capable of. And it's also going to be a great reminder, because when you get to a Friday and you have nothing that you can look back on and be proud of, boy, that is a good reminder that you better plan better for next week to focus on what matters. Okay, so right now, take out your phone. I'm going to guess every one of you has one. And you're going to go to your calendar, and you're going to go to Friday morning and put in, just if it's easier to put it in as a half hour, whatever it is, put in that recurring calendar appointment. Make that promise to yourself, because one of the things that we saw all of you say right at the beginning, or a very high number of you say, there's just not enough time to achieve your potential. Well, I promise you, if you make this commitment to yourself for 5 minutes a week, it will help you on that journey. So get that confidence catalog going. Now, the second session that we're going to be focusing on is communication and the power of your voice. This will be on June 4th from 3 to 5 p.m. And in fact, all of the sessions that we'll be doing will be on consecutive Thursdays starting next Thursday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. So we hope that this will work. And for our friends at the IAB, if you could just keep an eye on the waiting room there and admit those attendees as they're trying to join us, that would be terrific. Okay, so for communicating with power, we are going to focus on how we communicate to break through and to make an impact. And there is landmark research by Morabian and Ferris that shows that the vast majority of what people take away, 55%, so more than half, is based on our nonverbal behavior and our body language. Then about 38% of it is in how we deliver what we say, based on our verbal delivery or tone of voice. And it's that itsy bitsy part, that 7%, which are the actual words that we speak, that barely gets remembered, but really stops a lot of us, because we've got to get it exactly right and every data point in order to make our point. And so what we'll be doing over the course of the communication workshop is focusing on what I like to call our nonverbal power tools. So everything from the power pose, eye contact, gestures, facial expressions, dressing for success. You don't know that I'm wearing pajamas on the bottom, do you? Because I look like I'm all about business right now. Proximity and mirroring. And we'll also have some special things that we'll add in specifically around how do you make an impact when you are presenting or pitching or meeting with people virtually, because it does change the equation. And so if any of these things you could use help with, or you have no idea what I'm talking about, then this is probably a workshop that you want to be a part of. We'll also cover things as it relates to your verbal delivery or your tone, like when do you want to talk like a roller coaster versus When do you want to deliver information more like a carousel? Even paced, even keel? Actually, let's ask you right now. So if you were negotiating, do you want to speak like a roller coaster and show the meaning and emotion and impact in your voice about how much you care about this negotiation? Or do you want to present like a carousel and be calm and even keeled? Put that in the chat. Let's hear it. Okay, so do we have, if you're negotiating, are you roller coaster or carousel? Roller coaster, or I've got some roller coasters there. We've got, I'm assuming that's carousel. We've got some carousel, calm, carousel, carousel, roller coaster, roller coaster. Okay, we've got a mixed bag here, folks. Well, join the session and you'll find out. No, I'm just kidding. So when you are negotiating, you want to speak like the carousel. You want to pull that emotion out of it, because emotion and drama in your tonality shows that you care and you are connected to the outcome of the negotiation. Whereas when you're presenting, it's entirely different. And so we're going to teach you how to do both of those incredibly well. And then when it comes to your language or the words that you're speaking, we'll focus on what we call the 7 deadly speaking sins: filler words, hedges, apologizing, tag questions, overusing adverbs like literally, actually, certainly, oversharing. Somebody asks you a question that could be a yes or no, and you give them a 3-minute answer. And indirect language, not being clear and direct. And we'll go through each one of these and give you both mental as well as physical ways that you can undo those negative 7 deadly speaking sins. And finally, we're going to focus on something called the double bind. And so for all of you, this is an actionable item that if you remember nothing else, I want you to take this away today. The double bind is something that's been shown in research that can impact women and now men negatively in the workplace. And that is, in order for a man to be seen as a leader, he needs to communicate in what's called stereotypically male attributes: clear, direct, decisive, assertive. For a woman to be seen as a female leader, she needs to communicate with those stereotypically female attributes: warmth, empathy, caring, and what's called pro-social behaviors, meaning she's acting in a way to best support the group. But the reality is, if a woman only goes one way or the other way, so she's only showing her warmth, caring, but not pulling in those stereotypically male attributes, then she's not seen as a leader. That's what we'll say, oh, well, she's great, we love her, but I don't see her in the executive suite. Alternatively, if that woman is only communicating like a man would, so clear, direct, assertive, decisive, then she gets labeled with all those B words that we hate: bossy, brash, itchy with a B, and it's not a B word, but it's pretty close, abrasive. Okay, so in order for a woman to be seen as leader, and don't shoot the messenger because I didn't come up with this, this is research from decades and many of the top academic universities, but a woman needs to combine the two in order to be seen as a leader. She has to pull together the feminine, warmth, caring, and empathy. So it's okay if you're that warm, caring woman, which I know you all are, to pull some of that in along with being that clear, direct leader. But now here's the thing. For all you guys out there, to be a modern leader, what we call a fearless leader, you've got to pull in those stereotypically feminine attributes as well. It is no longer okay to just be that clear, direct person and not think about, especially in today's world and the crisis that we're in, to not lead with humanity. And so the way we can all put this into action is to start with humanity. Ask your fellow colleagues or your team about how their wife is doing, or their mother or father, or how their kids' track meet went this weekend. But then when it gets to business, be clear and direct in terms of what it is that you need. And for all of the guys who are here, I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you for being allies. I know you are. Let's make sure that we're not holding women to a higher standard. And guess what, ladies? We can be pretty rough on each other. Let's not hold each other to those higher standards either. And so I'm excited to share that now that we're officially opening up the registration for the 5-part bundle, which is a pretty significant discount, we are going to give the first 3 people after this session who sign up for the 5-part series for $299 instead of $99 per session, a free confident communications coaching session. So this will be with me, one-on-one, private session where we will role play an important meeting or a tough conversation or a big presentation that you need to have. We'll give you personalized feedback across 40 different attributes in terms of how you can be a stronger, more confident communicator. So first 3 will get it, and I hope that you can join us for that, and I can't wait to coach you. Okay, so now let's talk about the next session that's coming up, which is control. And this is owning your power and message on June 11th. So when it comes to control, many of you may not feel like you're in control right now. And what's been really helpful for me and a number of the folks that I've been training or coaching has to think about this from the perspective of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So if you don't remember this from Psych 101 in college or learned it anywhere else along the way, it basically says that until your lower level needs are met, it's really almost impossible to try and focus on those upper level ones. So starting with the most basic needs we have of physiological needs like air, water, food, and guess what? Toilet paper, which is why we've all been freaking out about toilet paper. And then we've got our safety needs. And then we can start focusing on love and belonging, self-esteem, and self-actualization, which is what most of you are here for, which is achieving your potential. And this is why for so many of us who have been operating probably in that green level of focusing on how do you get to that next level and trying to aspire to climb your way up to the blue self-actualization level. When the coronavirus quarantine and everything happened, it actually pulled the rug out under you. And it's like you drop down to the red level. And so if you haven't felt like yourself, that is a big part of that control and the reason why for that. So what you want to do is if at any point over the coming days, weeks, or months, you're not feeling like yourself, go back and take a look at this and start thinking about how can you climb back up and how can you take a moment to recognize, appreciate, and be filled with gratitude for what you do have right now. And remember how far you fell and how much you are climbing back up along the way. Now, control is incredibly important when it comes to feeling empowered at work, because according to our research, what we found is people who feel empowered are much more likely to seek out all of those career advancing behaviors. They're also more likely to feel more fulfilled, more connected at work, more loyal. But here's what we see across the board is that, again, when you look at men and women, women tend to feel more like what happens in their job is beyond their control, that there's little point trying to affect the way things are done at work, and that they have little choice to do aside from what they're told, and then it doesn't make that much sense to speak up. But again, as you can see, men and women are not that far off from each other, and that's why across the board, it's critical that we're focused on providing you with the tools to help you overcome these feelings. So one of the things that we'll be focusing on is stress. And we saw that in the word cloud when all of you had weighed in, that stress is one of those things that can really hold us back now more so than ever. But one of those things that you may not realize about stress is that there's 2 kinds of stress. You see, a stressful stimulus can be either negative, as we normally think of it as distress, or positive, which is called eustress. You never heard of it before, look it up. E-U-S-T-R-E-S-S, eustress. The reality is any stimulus could be seen either way. So here are 3 examples. I'll just say, let me see by show of hands. If you find doing games and puzzles like a Rubik's Cube as a fun challenge that you enjoy, give me a little woo woo, either physical, nonverbal feedback, or you can put it in the chat here. Okay, so is that fun for you, or is that something that stresses you out? For me, I'm not giving doing games. Whoop, whoop. It stresses me out. I don't need that in my life. But Alicia and Cheryl think it's fun. Okay, so that is an example of how the same exact stimulus has a different response for us. Okay, now how about roller coasters? Are you somebody that wants to throw up and starts getting all sweaty and clammy? If somebody says, hey, let's go on that gigantic roller coaster, or Great Adventure is coming out with the new highest roller coaster ever, is that a positive or is that a negative? Okay, so we've got Karina says she does not like roller coasters, not for her. Alicia and Tierney and Jazar, yes, please, and I'm with you. If I could help people achieve their potential and then stop doing that and go on roller coasters all day long, I'd be very happy. And then how about scary movies? Do we have any scary movie lovers out there that you say, ooh, it freaks me out a little bit, it's a challenge and I can't wait to see the next scary movie? Or are you someone that says, no, thank you, I am good, that is harmful distress for me? So you got some thumbs down, definitely not. Deanna Faye, I hope you enjoy it. You can get my seat because I'm not going to scary movies with you, okay? So have fun, it's all for you. And so this is just, again, an example we can all relate to of stimulus, but it's the same thing for anything that happens in our life. And in fact, there is landmark research that shows that when we are involved in any type of an activity, we can evaluate whether we believe that we have the resources to overcome it or not. And so if we feel like, okay, I have the resources that I can face this, we view that as a challenge. Whereas if you say, I don't think I have what I need, then it's considered a threat. And you have a biophysical response whenever something you believe that it's a threat. What ends up happening is you start releasing cortisol, which is not a good thing. Whereas if you view it as a challenge, it actually gets your heart rate increasing and pumping more blood through your heart every minute, which helps you overcome the challenge and is a positive thing and shows that you'll have greater performance afterwards. So what is that thing that's keeping you up at night? What is that challenge that you're going to face? And can you view it as a challenge rather than a threat? We're also in this session going to be helping you hack your habits. I'm not talking about these kind of habits. If you wear a habit that is your business, best of luck to you. I'm talking about these kind of habits, the habits we all have for everything from deciding that we want to get up in the middle of the afternoon and go have a cookie, to smoking cigarettes, to whether or not we are networking, to how we feel about getting a nerve-wracking email or having to stand on the front of the stage. With all of them, we'll talk about how there is a 3-step formula that goes into that: a cue, a routine, and a reward. And based on some really great research from Charles Duhigg, we'll talk about what are the ways that you can hack those habits, because you can't change the cue or the reward, but you absolutely can change the routine to change your behavior. We'll also talk about control from a controlling the conversation perspective. So this is those difficult situations that we get into, certainly from a sales perspective or from negotiations or even any type of conversation. It's a 3-step process of how you can prepare so that you are as confident and in control of the conversation, and at the same time immediately building trust, rapport, and credibility with the other person that you're working with. We'll also be doing one of my favorite activities, which is the Wet Cement Blue Sky Blueprint. And this will help you across 3 dimensions of your life: your career, your work-life integration and where they cross over, and then home and you. And we'll go through it together to identify what is it that you want in life? What do you want to avoid? And if you want to avoid something, how are you going to ask for help around that? What are you going to share, outsource, or give up? What are you afraid of? And how can you overcome or address your fears? And not only will you be able to really focus on this and break this out, but we'll all be working on this together to help each other be stronger together. And then what we'll also be focusing is on the gold standard for fearless meetings. And this is a little gift I'll give to all of you today to take with you from here on out. And the gold standard, gold is, who knows what gold is in Spanish? Put it in the chat for me right now. I know there's some of you out there. What is the word for gold in Spanish? It is dun, 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 oro. Thank you very much. And oro is an acronym. So we're going to remember this acronym of oro, which is objectives, roles and responsibilities, and outcomes. When is the last time that you looked at your week ahead or your month ahead, and for every single thing on your calendar, you took a whopping 1 minute per thing to write out what's the objective of this meeting, who is involved in this meeting, so the roles and responsibility of anybody who's been invited, and what are the desired outcomes. So beginning with the end in mind and working backwards from there, as Stephen Covey would say. By taking that, again, 1 minute for all you time-starved people out there, and writing it out, and then making sure that everything you're doing is connected to that oro, will start to dramatically change how you are doing business. And not only will it help you with your customers and partners, but internally, if you're one of those people that finds that you're not getting your needs met, or you're having some internal strife with your colleagues, by starting this process, it will dramatically change how you work together as a team. So an example of one of the things we'll be focusing on. Then we're going to be getting to another one of my favorite topics, which is connections and building powerful relationships on June 18th. And in this session, what we'll be focused on is a three-pronged networking strategy: online, in the industry, and at work. And based on the world that we're living in, we're going to focus first on virtually how you can do each and every one of these things. But we'll also be giving you tips and strategies so that when we're allowed to go to, I don't know, a place like Cannes again, or South by, or Adweek, or wherever it is that we like to see other human beings like CES, then you will have a very specific strategy and tactics of how you put that into place. And so we'll share tips like changing your mindset and not thinking of it as, I'm a sleazy person who's going to have an awkward conversation with some person who's just going to try and use me to get ahead, to, I have gifts to give. I am going to give some of those gifts and help other people. And guess what? You will help yourself at the same time, because we at Wet Cement believe very much in the karma jar. Fill up your karma jar and you will be able to withdraw from that baby for the foreseeable future. We'll also talk about things like, how do you not only set up virtual coffee in the world that we're in right now, but how do you make it meaningful? And how do you get to a point from having virtual coffee with a total stranger to being BFFs in the matter of minutes? Who couldn't use that? We'll talk about creating a tickler file. Let me see in the chat, who here has a tickler file, which is a very specific strategy of how you're communicating with different key people throughout your life and providing them with valuable content, articles, things that matter to them, so that you are staying top of mind in their world. If you have a tickler file, give me a big woot woot or a yes in the chat. We'll talk about specifically, how do you do this so that you can constantly be making an impact in the lives of others, stay relevant and top of mind. And Cheryl, I'm glad to see you got a little small woot. I guess that's a woot. Well, we will help any of you who do not know how to do this yet, so that it will help you stay relevant. And then we'll be putting it all into practice through using a tool that we call the Networking Navigator. That's quite frankly so complex, I couldn't even fit it all on the screen. And I'm sure you can barely even read what's on the page, but it gives you a little bit of a sense of the kinds of things that we are going to help you create a roadmap for yourself of how you're going to be networking across all of these different areas. And here's your little tidbit that I want you to take home if you don't already do this now. And that is, we're going to show you how to create templates for personalized LinkedIn invitations. So research shows that if you just try and with someone or connect to somebody and there's no personalized message, the likelihood that they're going to accept it is far lower than if you send a personalized message within there. But the reality is, not only do you want to have that personalized message, you want to use every last character. There's 300 of them that you can use. Well, we're all time starved, right? We saw that right in the beginning with the word cloud. So we'll talk about, and you can do it right now, write down a little homework assignment for yourself of creating a template for different kinds of people that you want to connect with that is exactly 300 characters. What I recommend you do is you either keep it in a Google Doc or a draft in your email, or even use something like Notes, so it's always easily accessible, and you can create a few different customized versions based on the kinds of people that you're connecting with. You may even leave it open to being, I don't know, 270 characters, so that for each person you can add a little bit of personalization in there. Man, you are going to move really fast when it comes to connecting with new contacts that can shape your career and help you achieve your potential. And then we'll be getting to the final session, which is on courage. And this, to me, my favorite description of courage is about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And we will be working through building personal business plans for each and every one of you based on an in-depth SWOT analysis that you'll be doing, so that you'll be able to take that big mission that you'd love to be able to pursue, whatever it is for each and every one of you, and put a very specific plan into action that is digestible and achievable and snackable, so that you can make it happen. And again, we'll work together as a team to help you lay that out. And the other little gift we'll give you is around this word, for whoever is familiar with it, ikigai. This is a Japanese term. You may be familiar with it. You may be thinking ikigai is this guy or this. No, it's not ikigai. I didn't say ikigai. These are two ikigais in my mind. Not ikigais. The survey says, no, not those. It's ikigai. And ikigai is a term that means your reason for being, your reason to live, your reason for waking up in the morning. It's part of why the Japanese people have one of the longest longevities in the world. The average age for women, mortality rate, is they die at the average age of 87 years old. Okay, and this is a big part of that. Now, I like to think of ikigai, there's two different dimensions to it. So one is that personal level where it allows you to look forward to the future, even if you're miserable right now, which I think, quite frankly, for most of us, and give me a little woot woot if you may feel the same way. Now, certainly there's lots of joy in spending more time with your loved ones, and lots of joy, I know, for so many of you who are either connecting with long lost friends and colleagues and classmates and family members through virtual happy hours, or I say virtual happiness hours, so you can take the liquor out of it if you need to. But it's really about the sum of small joys. And the metaphor that I like to think of is, if you're thinking about the big picture, you can see the beauty in that, even though, like for George Seurat, while he was painting one of the most famous pointillism images there is, when he was working on that bottom left-hand corner, not so much joy in that. I am going to go out on a limb and guess. But he knew that he was working towards that bigger picture. And so with every point, it brought him some joy. And so one of the things we'll be working on, again, together, in addition to building that personal business plan, is what is your professional ikigai? And the professional ikigai is thinking about it across 4 different dimensions. So what is it that you love? What is it that you're good at? What is it that you can be paid for? And what is it that the world needs? Now, I don't know about you, but I spent about 2 decades or so in the interactive advertising digital media industry. And there was a lot of that time where I was not hitting on all 4 cylinders. And I couldn't understand why. And now, once I learned about Ikigai, and this is part of why this is what I do with the gift of time that I get on Earth now, is once I understood is that I was hitting on 2 of those cylinders, or maybe even sometimes 3 of those cylinders, but it wasn't fulfilling enough for me. And so this is one of those places where we'll help you see how do you hit on all 4 cylinders without necessarily throwing out the baby in the bathwater. Many of you may feel like there's something missing, but we can help each other find those ways that you can hit across all 4 different dimensions. So we've got about 10 minutes to go, and wanted to share with all of you that, again, those first 3 people that will register will get that free 1-hour confident communications coaching session, normally $750 per person. But for you, it will actually be, if you sign up for the bundle, that you'd get all 5 classes for $299, which is less than half the cost of a private coaching session for confident communication. So pretty good deal. But of course, if you're only interested in one area or another, you can sign up for just one. It's $99 per workshop, or as I had mentioned, $299 for all 5 of them. And what I'd really like to hear from all of you again now is, let's go back to Menti and let's hear from you in terms of, we already saw these were your barriers beforehand in terms of what's holding you back from achieving your potential. And so based on some of those topics that we had covered off, you'll go back to menti.com and you'll put in that code 594367. You should be able to see that on your screen right now. Give me a thumbs up if you can see it on the screen. Little thumbs up from anyone? Okay, I'm gonna guess you can because I see some people answering. So where is that area that you feel like you need the most help? The reality is, for many of us, it could be across a few different dimensions, might be all 5. I know that for me, that's one of the things that's been life-changing, is really digging into not only the original research that we do, but we've also done a synthesis of all of the greatest academic literature that's out there from about the last 60 years and incorporated that together across these 5 fearless fundamentals, so that it's not just one person's opinion or one great study. Because look, we all have seen those studies about drinking coffee, right? Drinking coffee from one is bad. Drinking coffee from another is good. And you end up being really conflicted and not knowing which way to turn. So that's one of the reasons that we've worked with some of the best researchers and behavioral scientists to look at the landmark of research and understand how do we pull that together to give you these really easy, simple ways that you can start to change your life and achieve your potential. So it looks like, if you see here, we've got, of the folks who have responded, we got a lot of folks who could use all of them. Connections and building powerful relationships. I love that one because, again, we even find a way to make it fun, but also to make it something that you're doing on a consistent basis and where you have a strategy behind it. So it's not just waiting until you go to that one networking event over the course of the year. Confidence and self-belief, certainly something that can help all of us and take the reins and do what it is that we need to do. So thank you so much. We've got a few minutes left here. Cheryl, I'm curious to get your perspective in terms of, any of these resonate with you at all?
Well, I mean, I was one that said all of the above. So, I mean, I think this was a great overview, Jen. Thanks so much for giving us a taste of your 5-step Fearless Fundamentals program. I hope everyone takes advantage of signing up for these. We really tried to price it right for, the marketplace, and wanted to make it available to all of you. So hopefully you got something out of today, and you will encourage yourself and others to make an investment in yourself. It's a great gift to give to someone else too. Tell your manager that you think, your whole team would benefit from it. So anyway, this was great stuff. Thanks, Jen. Really appreciate it.
I am so thrilled to hear that. So thank you, and thank you all for your time. And we want to hear from you. So what questions do you have? What feedback do you have? What resonated with you or not? Right now, I believe everybody is on mute. So if you'd like to ask a question, I'm going to stop sharing so that I can go to the gallery view here and see many of you. Would love to hear from all of you. What are the questions you have? You can put it into the chat if you prefer, or just take
Hey,
yourself.
Jen.
Yes.
You know, it would be helpful. I think we're all living in this virtual world. Are there tips for effective communication virtually? Just a couple things we could all learn. How do you engage? Let's start with that. How do you engage the people you're talking to? Like you use chats, you use polls. You're very good at this, but for some of us, this is a little more challenging. What are some good tips?
Okay, so well, you've probably seen now that I like thinking fives, right? Everything's fearless five, fearless five fundamentals. My birthday is June 5th, just in case you want to send some Chardonnay my way. But there are 5 things that you can do to help with that. So one is, or to help be a more engaging virtual presenter. So first and foremost, it's about eye contact. Okay, so the biggest mistake I see is that people are leading a meeting and they're like this the whole time. Or better yet, they're like this the whole time. I mean, I don't know about you, but I do not want to go to a meeting and look in somebody's ear. Okay, so one thing that you can do, and this is a little trick. Well, I said I was in the interactive advertising and digital media space for 20 years. What I did before that is I was a TV news anchor and reporter. So I'd give you a little trick. When you do that, you look right at that little dot right there that all of you see, right? And you think of something that brings you joy and something that makes you happy, unless you're delivering bad news. And then you don't think of something like that because you look very odd if your facial expression does not match your message. Those two things need to match. So if you're starting off a meeting, you want to think about what makes you happy. Is it your child? Is it your child when they were younger and not a teenager? Don't tell anyone I said that. Is it bunnies? Is it babies? Whatever it might be. What is something that brings a little bit of joy to your life? And what that will actually do is it'll give you a genuine smile along with having eye contact and looking right at you. And it's called the Duchenne marker when you have a genuine smile. And what happens is the difference between this and thinking about my son when he was so cute and little is my eyes will crinkle up at the corners and the sides of my mouth will turn up. And that's what's called the Duchenne marker and shows the difference between a genuine smile and another one. So make that eye contact and think of something positive. So that's one thing that you can do. Secondly, use the chat. As you saw here, it's really easy to get people weighing in and you can see what everyone has to say at the same time. The only thing you really need to do is take a few moments before the meeting to look through your materials and think about what would I ask as a question that people could weigh in on. Then to give people even a stronger voice, thirdly, I like to say use polls. So as you saw, I use a technology that I really love called mentimeter.com, or as you saw, menti.com. I do not make any money off of them. Anything I ever recommend, I will not make $1 from. I'm telling you what my honest opinion is. I love that, really inexpensive for most of the companies that all of you work for, or depending upon the video conferencing platform that you're using, Zoom or Microsoft Teams, they all have polling features included in too. So if you, again, take just a few minutes to think about what is that question that you wanted to ask in advance, put that into a poll, and now instantaneously everyone feels like they're together and they see what the group has to say. This is also a really important thing for creating an inclusive and collaborative culture so that people who may be more shy or reticent about speaking up will have an equal voice as well. And then finally, what I would suggest that you do is use body language. As you saw, I said, give you a little thumbs up or a little whoop whoop, but you want to do what is genuine and authentic for you. You may not be a whoop whoop person. You may not be from Staten Island. I am, unfortunately. No, fortunately. And so find that thing that feels natural and genuine for you. And again, it just takes a moment to look through whatever it is that you're presenting, or that aura that we talked about, your objectives, your roles and responsibility, and the outcomes that you want, and then think through what are those 5 different ways that you can engage folks. Thank you for asking.
Awesome. That was great tips.
I'm so glad. Do we have any other questions out there? And I know that we're coming up right to 5 o'clock Eastern time here. I am happy to stay on for a few more minutes if you have questions or feedback or ideas. So please stay on if you'd like. We'll keep it open a little bit longer. Any other questions out there? And again, you can put it in the chat or just take yourself off mute, and we'd love to hear from you.
Jen, this was so awesome. Thank you to Cheryl and yourself for doing this. And I'm excited for the session, so thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for being here and
Signed up.
being a champion. Wonderful. Thank you. I see we've got some responses in the chat too. You're welcome, Michael, and I hope everyone has a good week ahead. We like to say here, stay safe, stay well, and stay fearless. So I hope to see all of you in the upcoming workshop series that we have. If you're there for all 5, awesome. If we only see you for 1 or 2, that's okay too. We want to help you in all the ways that you need it. We just saw a question that says, is there a recording of this so we can share it with other folks? So this is on Facebook Live right now on the Wet Cement Facebook page. So if you go there, as soon as this session is over, you'll be able to access the recording right from there, and you can easily share that out with anyone that you'd like.
And to register, it's iab.com/events. So just make sure everyone knows where that is.
That's right. So again, first 3 people, sounds like one of those slots may have already been taken. We'll get that free, private, personalized, confident communications coaching session, but I hope to see all of you there. So again, a huge thank you to all of you. I'll stay on for another minute if anybody has any other questions, but again, stay safe, stay well, and stay fearless. Thank you.
Jen, thanks so much. Thanks to the IAB team for your help in putting this on today.
Thank you.
That's
We really
awesome.
appreciate it.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you. And I do see that we have a few additional folks that are still on. So if you have any questions, let's hear it. And if not, I look forward to seeing you in the Fearlessness series. For those of you who are joining us through Facebook Live, thank you so much for being here. And again, go sign up on the iab.com/events. I look forward to seeing you there.